My word.
All right. Welcome back to the UMR podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Dallas Methodist, he and his. I'm a Hall at North Dakota State University, and with me I have
Jesse B, from Cornell College. You gave all of your things. She, her pronouns, Associate Director of Residence Life. Nathan, go.
Yeah, sure. I just didn't want the light on my face. I'm Nathan Dozier. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm an assistant director over at Fort Hays State University Residential Life. I was born in 1997. Yeah, I was gonna say my mom's name, but I forgot she's a cop. She doesn't like it when I tie her to her
my
family.
mom's not a cop, so I'll say my mom's name. My mom's name is Tammy.
My mom's name is Erin. I don't know why we're sharing this.
My mom's name is not Darla.
Not Darla.
Yep.
Great. When I meet her, I'm gonna say, "Nice to meet you, not Darla. I've heard a lot about you."
For the
Honestly,
visual,
she doesn't like
for the
Darla.
visual viewers, do you like the setup?
What do you say?
Huh?
I said for the visual viewers, do you like how you feel about the design setup? You should comment down below.
Dude, your audio doesn't catch you from there.
I'm back, baby. I'm back.
There you go.
That's great because it's not like I went far. I was standing on a chair.
Right, yeah. Is
Yeah,
your
you
chair wheeled?
became.
Do you have a wheeled chair?
I have a wheelchair, yes.
Oh, I can't
Not
believe you
what
didn't
I was
fall.
saying, but fair.
Wait, what did you what?
A chair with wheels?
Yeah, a wheeled chair.
Oh, you are saying wheeled, but
Yeah.
it sounded like you just said wheelchair. I was like, man, that's not really what I
No, no,
like you were
no.
standing on it, so no,
That's
you were not in a
crazy.
wheelchair,
For
man.
anyone who thought I said wheelchair, that's not what I thought. A chair with wheels, wheeled up with a D. I don't want to get canceled. I'm so sorry.
What are we talking about today?
We're talking about bouncing back after mistakes.
That's so topical. That's so topical. It's like we planned this intro. We did.
Yeah, now Dallas has already issued a public apology. So
Yeah, so that's how you do it. You issue a public apology every time you make a mistake.
podcast
That's what I
over.
do.
If you
Great.
email your entire university that you've made a mistake, that's how you get past it.
Yeah, I'll do
Sorry,
it right
guys.
now.
Oh man. So who wants
So
to talk about it? Yeah, go for it.
yeah, I guess jumping in, I want to hear your stories of mistakes you made and how you overcame them.
What a broad and wild question.
I know,
Mistakes that
right?
I've made and how I've overcame them.
Just
As a
one?
professional, as a
As a professional.
as a
As a
professional, because my
professional. Okay.
my
That
best
narrows
story
down the
is let's just say my best story is when I was a student leader. But
I
I
think
I don't think I should share that, I guess. We've talked
I
about
don't
it
think
internally.
you should.
But
I
that'd be a really good story. I've always nah. Well, when we do the after hours podcast,
Yeah, once we
okay,
do the after hours
great.
podcast and we talk about those things, yeah, then we can share those things.
but no, a mistake that I've made and how I've overcame it. Well, I guess I can talk general, and then if something pops in my brain, you know how I work. I'll just start talking about that too.
Perfect.
Uh, but I mean, I feel like, I mean, the joke answer is, oh man, I make mistakes every day, you know, because I do. Um, but like, I feel like, and I don't, maybe some people would view this as mistakes, and some people would just view it as like, you're doing what makes the most sense in the time that you're making the decision in the situation that you're in. But like, I feel like a lot of times, when I'm handling situations when it involves like students and such, maybe I'm not following like direct procedure and policy from my institution and my department,
Hmm.
and I'm doing what I feel like makes the most sense for the students that are involved, not for the department that I work for. Now, is that again what I'm supposed to do as a someone who is employed by a department? Technically, no. Like that's technically me making a mistake is not following for correct procedure and policy because I think it doesn't make sense for the student that I'm trying to help in that situation. Now,
So
like,
let me
no,
narrow down further.
but
I
I
think
had more, but don't worry, you go for it.
I think mistake, yeah, but this will help you
It won't.
on a path. Mistake is inadvertent, not intentional.
Well, wait. Is that the definition of mistake?
I would say yes.
Because I feel like you can easily inadvertently make a mistake. Like, oh, I'm gonna go in this making a mistake.
So,
That's not a
so your
mistake. That's a
your your
deliberate.
argument here is that the difference, but like, what would you call it if you do the wrong thing but you meant it then? Like, what's the new word?
Um, I wouldn't call that a mistake. I would call that a
Nefarious?
what?
Would it just be nefarious?
That yes.
Interesting. Okay. Then I've never made a mistake.
That you've never accidentally done the wrong thing.
Okay. Yeah, but no, but I mean like little like big, I don't think so. Little, I mean there's times when you're on call and it's 1 in the morning, you get a call and you're like, damn, I don't remember what I'm supposed to do, but I'm gonna just do it. And again, that goes back to what I was just saying is I'm doing what I think makes the most sense in the situation that I'm in. And then afterwards I'm following up and making sure I figured out all the steps after.
Okay.
But like it's like I don't remember all of the processes and the policies and procedures and step by step all the time. I just do what I remember I need to do, and then if I need to follow up and do extra things later, I do it. So like I
But
Jesse,
said,
that's different than deliberately breaking protocol because you think it's
so
best for a student.
so Jesse, can we get a Webster definition of mistake real quick so then we're all
Uh,
on the same page?
yes, yeah. The Oxford Dictionary says mistake is defined as an action or judgment that is misguided or wrong.
So
so what I
so
said was
the
right.
the action itself being that you did it and then you were told that you did the wrong thing. It doesn't mean that you didn't think it was the right thing when you did it. It would mean that the result was the wrong thing.
It means your action was wrong.
Yeah.
Based off
Yeah.
the perception of someone who else who told me it was wrong.
So, depending on, yeah, okay, this is getting very philosophical. You can,
Like what defines a mistake? What really is a mistake?
Comment down below your definition of a mistake.
Yeah. If you get in there, just agree with Dallas. It'll make him feel good.
sure, Dallas, go back to what you were originally saying.
I don't remember what I was initially saying. Nathan, do you have anything for this question?
Yeah, I've made plenty of mistakes. I've made small ones, I've made big ones. Small mistakes I've made back when I was a community director. Um, there were like times where there were students who we need to get checked in to our system
Mhm.
because that means that we know one, they're here, two, they're getting billed for their housing for the semester, and three, they're getting billed for their meal plan. And I think it was my first spring break because we check them out and then check them back in. But the way that our university works is if the student doesn't check out, but they're not here and they're not coming back, and we figure that out, then we remove them from their housing meal plan because why are we charging someone for something that they don't need? Um, and when you check someone in who's not here, but you check them in because your staff members tell you they're here, then
Mm,
we get charged for their meal plan. The housing doesn't matter because it wasn't our money to begin with. So we can just give that back, whatever. But our dining services still charges us for the meals that they accounted for to then make. So, like, mistake, yes, because we checked in a student who wasn't here, and it cost the university, I think, like $1,000, which a lot of money, grand scheme, not that much money. But per student, $1,000. If it was like 8 people,
yeah.
$8,000, a little more significant, not
Yeah.
much. In the same semester, though, someone made like a $20,000 mistake. So I was like, well, what's 1,000?
Yeah. I
Oh,
love
great.
comparing mistakes to others because then it makes your mistake feel less.
Well, it makes it so people don't remember yours.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's right. I like that.
So, like, that's a small one. Larger scale mistake, there was a time where I had a disagreement with someone, and instead of talking to them, I talked to their supervisor, and it turned into a way
Mm,
bigger thing instead of just handling the situation, which I was totally capable of. And it was a one-off thing. It wasn't like it was a pattern of mistakes or a pattern of
yeah.
issues I was having. So instead of going to their supervisor, I probably should have just talked to them instead of escalating it. And it kind of just ruined the vibe of our team for a good couple months because of it. So I think that's more of a large scale mistake, something that actually impacts your team long term.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I think something that I learned from that though was kind of trying to figure out where my emotion starts versus where the actual issues
Mm,
start and
yeah.
completely separating them because that's when you know when to talk to someone. But if someone really pisses you off and you don't want to talk to them, you're really likely to go to their supervisor even when you don't need to. But all it does is escalate, which is kind of the antithesis of our job. We kind of want to not do that.
Yes, the job is generally to de-escalate.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my answer
Great.
of a mistake that I've done.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. I mean, no, thanks, Nathan. That was Nate. Don't say thanks, guys. That's
Well, Dallas
Nathan.
You
hasn't made
share
mistakes.
things.
My mistake is thinking I'm as good as I. No, I'm just joking. I'm gonna stop.
Oh my gosh.
I knew my mistake is that I don't make mistakes. And I think I'd learn more if I had.
Ridiculous.
But no, Jesse, what about you? Any
Yeah.
mistakes I had to overcome?
No, I don't make mistakes.
I agree. That's what I'm
Hey,
saying.
sounds like
Exactly.
I'm the only
I'm
asshole who
kidding.
doesn't
I'm
deserve his
kidding.
job.
No, I thank you. Let's go.
No. No, so many mistakes. Oh my gosh, the amount of conversations that my boss has had to have with me about things that I have um done to either like dropped the ball with protocol um or offended a student and made life harder for everyone. Because I came into this job almost immediately after undergrad. And my undergrad was the opposite in every way of where I work now. And so I was like things that were very socially normal, and even considered professional where I grew up and went to school, were not at all acceptable in this environment. Um, so there was culture shock, and there was just learning to be a professional, and there was not having worked in a supervisory role before. So my first 2 years were full of mistakes. Um, I'm trying to think of what stories I can tell without revealing.
Giving
Oh,
like data about the actual
yeah.
situation.
Uh-huh. Um,
We'll censor it. If you say names, we'll just bleep it out.
Yeah, yeah,
I won't say
I
names.
know how to do that.
For sure, for sure.
Every time you
This
say
one,
a name,
this
I'll
was a
replace it with the podcast theme.
Redacted, redacted.
just yeah, redacted. Beep it all out. It'll be fine.
Your
Um,
audio of you saying redacted will be replacing everything you say that's informational.
Perfect. That's great.
Redacted.
Gosh. Okay, so one that was procedural. This one I can tell because it was entirely on me. Um, so the first time I got a call about somebody smoking marijuana in the halls. Um, I'm from Chicago, where it's legal. I work in Iowa, where it is not. Um, and I really was like, this is not a big deal. Like, of all the things for me to wake up in the night about and go deal with, this is not a big deal. So they called me about it. Our protocol says that two student leaders have to identify the smell and then two campus safety officers, and then they call me. So they were all like, all of the people, all four people lined up. They were ready to call the police. And I was like, no, don't call the police. We're good. It's fine. And the next day, all of the supervisors were like, um, no, that's not how we do that here. Like, you gotta, you gotta call the police. I was like, it was 2 a.m. I didn't want to get out of bed.
It's real.
And it's fine. Like, whatever. They won't do it again. They got caught. Um, I have no idea who the students were because I didn't show up. And so if they did it again, I don't know. But now I know. Always call the police in Iowa. Um,
Yeah,
So
How
I
it
didn't
is in
chill
Kansas
like
too.
that.
what?
Oh, I said that's how it is in Kansas too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Granted,
Like I
I lived in
said,
Kansas and Nebraska, so I honestly have never lived somewhere where it's not legal or where it is legal, other way around. So I just like cross the board. If I moved to a state that where they're like, nah, it's chill, man, I'd probably call the police and then I'd get in trouble for that. So I get it.
Yeah,
yeah.
I really like I lived in Chicago and then I did grad school in Colorado and came straight from Colorado to here. And so both places that it's like very normal and just did not want to deal with it at 2 a.m. Um but I know better now and now I do call the police. And I was like all of the people involved in that situation were so disappointed. Like the RAs that were gonna call the police, the campus safety officers, they were like, "Are you joking?" Um, because they were all geared up for like a whole big scene to be made, and then I said no.
Yeah. And that was just last week. Like this situation Jess talked about was last week.
No, it was not.
Now, kudos to those like student staff being like, "You're serious? You didn't do it?" Like that's that's awesome. Because I feel like students in general be like, "I guess that's less work for me now. I'll leave." Like that's
Oh,
all.
Yeah,
my
no, they
students would
were
be the same way.
bummed. What?
My students would be the exact same way. They'd be like, "Oh no, I have to be here like an hour less." Dang.
Nah, everybody was disappointed.
Yeah.
Did they tell you that?
I could specifically the campus safety officer that called me, I could hear it in his voice. He was like, for real?" Like, and I think everybody, I feel like I heard from people later, like, yeah, we were all ready to do it, and then you said no. So, whoops. Sorry, guys. Sorry you didn't get any action.
And that's me immediately after a mistake is whoops.
Oh.
That's good. I've made other mistakes, more relational supervisory mistakes, that caused friction between me and my team for like the rest of the year that it takes me weeks to get over.
I think I have found a different inner peace nowadays where I will reflect on a mistake for as long as it lingers in my mind and I accept that that's going to happen.
Mm.
It depends on the mistake, but once it's gone, I don't know, man. Like I can tell people about it, but it doesn't matter anymore. It mattered for the week, maybe, but it, I care more about interpersonal relationships and messing those up than I care about like procedural errors because
Mhm.
procedural errors, if it costs the university money, we'll bounce back. The $50 I forgot to charge for a key being gone, eat it out of my paycheck, I guess, if you have to, but that's not permission for the record. But
Redacted, redacted.
redacted, yeah, that's a bleep. But I don't care. I mean, I care that I made the mistake. I'm not going to do it again because of that, but
Right.
that doesn't matter. If I flub a personal relationship because of me, not because of
Mhm.
someone else. If it's someone
Right,
else,
right, right.
I'm not going to take blame for a mistake in that sense. But if I do it, man, that sucks. I've said a wrong word at some point in my life. What can you do? That sounds worse than I meant it to. Oh well.
I agree though. Like,
Yeah, you just phrase something wrong and then it just
yeah.
ruins the vibe. And it's like, I don't know. I'm
Mhm.
gonna think about that for the rest of the week. Oh well.
But no, I
Well,
guess going off of what you were saying though, Nathan, I feel like that's just literally the majority, if not everyone that works in our field, is
that's
I
true.
like because like you can get again, you can fix procedural policy errors or whatever. You can fix it on the back end after the fact for the most part. Like, you forget to submit a document or fill out some paperwork or whatever, send an email, get someone in the loop. Like you can, that's not hard. That's not hard to
Mhm.
fix, you know. Oops, I forgot to submit the document 20 minutes after the situation. I'll do it in a day. You know, that's not difficult to fucking oops to fucking I'd be swearing.
Oh
But
no.
no. Oh no, but no, that's my mistake is I'd be swearing everywhere and I don't mean to. But no, I feel like yeah, interpersonal that's just the job we do is interpersonal mistakes are just so much harder to bounce back from, I feel like, because people are so much harder to work with. But that's not the topic
Mhm.
of this is people and human interaction.
I disagree, actually. I think that mistakes and how you feel about mistakes is solely based on people interactions. Because
Mhm.
if I made a mistake and then a computer system blurted out like you did this wrong, I'm not gonna sit here and go, but but I'm so good at my job. Like I don't care. Like if do you guys use Workday? Do you know what Workday is?
Mm-mm.
Dang it. Man, I wish we had this one universal thing we all used.
That'd be
StarRes.
great.
We don't use StarRes. I know of StarRes and I've used it, but
You know
currently I
what
Yeah.
Star? Okay, let's say the housing portal you guys use or the
Yeah.
housing
Yeah. Okay.
system. So if you put in someone's information wrong and then it gives you an error, it says that person's already booked in a room. You're not going to go, I thought I was good at this, but I
Right.
guess I guess it's all down the drain now. Like you don't care. But if you put something in StarRes and then someone comes into your office and says you fucked this up, like that hurts. It hurts way
Yes.
more.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it's all like if the people weren't there and it was just based on your performance to the computer, I wouldn't feel anything.
I agree. Yeah. Like mistakes suck because of how people respond and how they impact your relatability throughout and rapport.
Right? I just want people to know that I can do my job a little bit. And that's the thing. Whether or not they know I can do my job doesn't change the fact that I know how to do my job,
Hmm.
but it definitely changes how they will approach me. I think that's
Right.
where it hurts.
Yeah, that
And
part. Speak that part. That's real. That's the realest thing I've ever heard.
how they approach you, and also how, like, so much of our job is based on relationship. Like, I can't effectively help support a student worker in a job if they don't trust me or if they are offended by me or, like, we can have some semblance of a working relationship, like very transactional. I tell you to do a thing and you do it. But it's not effective. And that bleeds into, like the rest of the community starts to feel that lack of care
Yeah.
or rapport because we're not able to communicate well.
Fully.
I have a thought or a question or an idea.
Yeah.
Uh, so I don't know if this is your guys' experience. I'll talk about it a little bit real quick, and then maybe get some feedback or whatever. But I find it so interesting how if regardless of the level of mistake you make, a lot of people like I don't want to say hold grudges, but like they're again back to what Nathan was saying, like the perception of how you were able to do your job relies heavily on like the mistakes you make. Not it's always the negative. It's not the positive, and that's just humans.
Mm.
We're more interested in the negative than the positive. Like if you go
Yes.
back to like news stories, it's like negative titles always pop, and they're like, oh, it gets like ratings and stuff because that's what draws our attention. It's just so unfortunate. Because I have a coworker who has it's their third year now. I think it is now as a hall director, and they've gotten significantly better since their first year because that's what growth is.
Hmm.
Um, so their first year wasn't the greatest when it came to a lot of like procedural errors and mistakes and stuff. Okay, which is to be no to be like that's normal. You're trying to learn the job and the new things you have to do and all that. But like they're still, at least from one individual in the department, like seen like as you make mistakes, even though they don't do as
Hmm.
much now as they did in the past. Now,
Hmm.
again, we all make mistakes daily, whether or not we know. It depends on whatever, if we're told we're making the mistakes or not. But like, it's just so unfortunate how long someone's perceived performance can be affected solely based on the mistakes they made insert how many months, years, whatever in the past.
No, I agree. And honestly, the other part of that too is if you made mistakes in the past, you do well for a really long time, then you make a mistake a year later, all of that gets brought back too. And I don't think that's fair at all. It's no matter how much time passes, it seems like there are individuals who can't see the humanness in other people
Hmm.
because of just solely the fact of they're just in their own little world and they can't see the fact that people change, people make improvements, people see what they do wrong. Everyone does. Even if, even the person that I dislike the most in the world, I know that that person has changed, has seen mistakes they've done, and has grown.
Right.
That doesn't mean I like them. We haven't
Sure.
talked. It's life. You know who you are. But no, like we all are people. We're all gonna grow. And refusing to see that in others is, I'm gonna say, the minimum, pretty sad. It's just sad to not be able to
Hmm.
accept the fact that people grow and change and improve. But if someone doesn't want to do those things, I think you know it and you know it pretty firmly, but those are like our, I don't know, like our people who, I don't know, are we thinking like Jeffrey Dahmer? Like he didn't want to improve probably. Like I think that's the type of person who I'm just like, okay, they obviously don't see the mistakes in what they're doing. Or if they do, they're not showing it. But
Sure. Yeah.
but most actual people you meet are going to be people who want to improve because they're people.
That's where I think it's really important to keep a like a coaching mindset. Um, and that's something that I've had modeled really well for me and my boss. Um, that he very much expected for me to make mistakes. I don't know if he anticipated the ones that I made, but he was very upfront at the beginning about like, you're learning this job. You've never done this before. I'm not expecting you to be proficient immediately. So if you have questions, that's great. If you have mistakes, we'll work through them. Um, he, I think the first time I had a really intense situation with a student, I came in and I said, I need to talk to you about something. I think I made a mistake. And he was like, have you burned down a res hall, lost your master keys, or slept with a student? And I said, none of those. And he was like, great. There's nothing I worked through. Um, and I really think like that coaching mindset is like, okay, we can roll with whatever this is. As long as it's not a fireable offense, we're good. Um,
I
and
like
just
the top
keeping
three there. That's
what?
like that's the golden trio of like errors right
Isn't
there.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Burned down residence hall, lost master key, or slept with a student.
And two of those we can ask more questions to see if you're actually fired.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
like one of those, I'm so sorry. Like unless you're married to someone who just became a student, I like that's the exception, I think.
That's interesting that that's your exception because my thought was it's the master key. If you lose the master key, it's over.
No, 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 no. That one is not the exception. That one only has one scenario where I'm cool. The
Yeah.
other two, I can find exceptions.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm sorry. Don't, just don't.
Yeah. Moving
Yep.
past it, though.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's my advice actually overall. Just don't.
Just don't. That's good
Yeah.
advice.
In
Thank you.
summary, just
I will
don't.
take that. In summary.
Yo, speaking of just don'ting, the opposite of just doing, you know what people should do?
Mm.
Write for perspectives. I think people should write for perspectives. We haven't got as many entries for that as we should.
This is a
I
great
think
plug.
I think writing for perspectives is cathartic, I think is the right word. I've written for perspectives twice. And I both times used that experience. I mean, what I submitted was completely different than what I started typing, but if you don't journal, it's a great way to just get some of your like thoughts out and then rehash them to actually make sense for the submission of perspectives. I wrote about, oh, I think it was my summer processes that I'm in charge of, and then also how higher ed as a whole forgets about upper division students and how to support them. So I think perspectives is really important. I think more people should submit for that. If y'all two haven't written yet, I think you should, and you should submit. And that's my little plug.
Submitting for perspectives is a very important part of your spiritual journey.
And you can use it to process mistakes.
And that too. That's how you do the self-forgiveness part, by writing
Yeah,
out
there
the
you
whole
go.
thing and reflecting on all parts of it. That's how you'll get there.
Yeah.
And other people can learn from you. It's great. Submit to perspectives, guys.
Yeah.
I need to go take that advice, actually. I really owe Riley an article.
I too owe Riley an article. Thank you, Dallas, for allowing me to take the next step onto a stone.
So getting back
On
into
that
our
note,
discussion, yeah, getting back into our discussion. Jesse, what else do you have thoughts about that you want us to maybe talk about?
so I think my biggest question, and we can end on this, is how do you recover confidence after a mistake?
Well, Dallas doesn't make mistakes.
No, no, because stop it. I think I have really good advice here. Maybe. It depends on if you take who you take seriously in this podcast and who you actually want to take advice from. If I'm not someone, skip ahead. But
Skip
I
ahead
think
to the timestamp below.
that'd be funny if we started timestamping my section so you could just skip ahead. Regardless, moving past that. So I think immediately after you as the individual feel like the action that you took, even though, so obviously if you were told that you made a mistake, but you don't feel like that was genuinely a mistake, you would feel differently than if you actually took it as, oh, I actually messed up. So when you
Yes.
get to a point that you actually feel like you've made a decision that was actually a mistake, yes, the immediate blow is unfortunate and it doesn't feel great. Um, there's been again, I joke that I don't make mistakes. I've made mistakes. There's times I'm sitting down in my apartment with my cat and then something pops in my brain. I'm like, oh man, I suck at what I do because of the mistakes that I've made. Okay. So I think initially you just kind of got to sit in that. I think that's the first step of how you can get to where you were previously to the mistake is there's a phrase in my department is sitting in the shit. You just got to
Mm,
sit in the shit and just like be like,
a good
damn,
one.
I've messed up. I've just got to like process through the reaction that whether it's like the physical reaction I'm feeling with my body or the mental reaction with my brain, just kind of sitting through that because that's a very important step of recovering from anything. But
Mhm.
recovering confidence from a mistake is just allowing yourself to actually process through what has happened and just sitting it with it. Now, when you've gotten past that, I think it's really important, depending on what the mistake is to follow up with the individuals that were affected. Now, obviously, that first part is following up with yourself because you are also affected by mistakes. So that's the first part is following up with yourself and then following up with others of how can I move past the mistake that I've made. Now, obviously, you should every time you have an interaction with anyone, you take things with a grain of salt because it depends on like how it works for like what you believe. Because like again, like yes, supervisors are supervisors, but not everything they say is 100% like you should. I'm not gonna get into that. Regardless, we can pass that. You should follow with the individuals that were affected, whether that's someone above you, someone from the side of you, or someone below you. Okay. Um, and kind of seeing if there is any additional steps that you can take to amend the situation or any additional support that you can offer or assistance you can offer the individuals that were affected. Now, like I said earlier, if that means making sure you are more on time with document submission, okay, then give yourself reminders of, well, when there's this kind of situation, I need to do this in a timely manner. Okay. If that's what someone above you says, hey, just make sure you're more on top of the submission of things. Okay, cool, then be more on top of it. Give yourself reminders. write down things, whatever your organizational tool is, use that. I used to be a big sticky note guy until I started losing my sticky notes. I started losing them,
Feel
and then
that.
there was one time where my first year here at NDSU, my hall director office was the same as the RA office, and so my RAs had access to my office basically. And there was one time that one of my RAs read a sticky note about them on my desk, and then so that's a mistake. Don't have personal information in public. But then I've stopped using sticky notes because I don't want anyone to read things that I'm trying to follow up on. Regardless, so like give yourself those reminders if it's more of a procedural mistake. If it's more of like an interrelational mistake, I think there needs to be more like maybe like try to develop more self-awareness on your end of like, okay, because it depends on like mistakes when it comes to interacting with people definitely depends on how people react to how you act, if that makes any sense. Because you can change your actions and how you do things. You can't change how people react to what you do. So just trying to be more aware and even maybe having conversations with these people if you need to of like, how are you receptive to whatever, insert whatever there. Like how can you take or how do you take whatever, okay? Figuring out how to communicate correctly with these people so you can correctly communicate with these people. Um, but yeah, I think I said a lot. That's a little bit of how you recover confidence is just the follow up, whether it's with yourself or with others, and then taking it one day at a time.
That was good advice.
That was actually really good advice. I said actually. I didn't mean that was good advice. It's not, there's nothing pretensing or subtensing it. It's just good advice.
Nathan, what
Um,
you got?
and say if I have any advice, it is once you recognize a mistake, just address it immediately. Um, I agree with sitting the shit when you can't do anything.
Mm,
Um, for me personally, the more I think about something, the more likely I am to worry about it. And if you worry about something before you actually have to have a hard conversation, it's like having a hard conversation twice. And at
that's
that
true.
point, I'd rather just have it once. And then after the conversation, I can reflect on it because I'm going to do that either way. But if I worry up until who knows when, I don't think that's fair to myself.
Mm,
And that goes the same for when I have to have a conversation with someone else. My personal philosophy is I will not tell someone, hey, by the way, I have this really hard conversation I have to have with you. Let's wait until you're one-on-one. That's just not how I work, because I don't think that just makes someone worry up until one-on-one,
yep.
and that's just not necessarily a fair way to go about it for me. If some other people would prefer to have more time to reflect, sure, give them some information then so they know what
Mhm.
they're getting into,
Right, right.
but none at all is a little rough. So, yeah, just address things just as soon as you can because waiting sucks for everyone involved.
Yeah, that's great. I think I love everything that you said, and um my biggest thing as far as recovering confidence after mistakes. So like I've dealt with the follow up, I've apologized to who I need to apologize to. I've, put steps in place to remind myself about procedure. Is also just like figuring out creative ways, and this is gonna sound cliche,
Yeah.
but to learn from my mistakes. Um, so there were a couple there have been a couple times when I've been working with like students of color. And if you're not watching this visually, I'm white. Um, and
I mean, we all are.
um, okay,
I'm half. I'm half. I think that's fair. I am
that's
white
okay. No,
in a
that's fair.
way.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. I couldn't tell if you were joking or not. You are half.
Sorry, please continue.
Oh my gosh. So there have been a couple conversations where I have said things that in my culture, felt like were normal and okay to say, and they did not come across that way cross culturally. Um, and so I spent last summer, and it happened only a couple times, but enough that I was like, this is something that I need to get better at. So last summer, I spent most of the summer working with a culture coach to like learn how to navigate those conversations in ways that are effective for both me and the student. And so that I don't get walked over or misunderstood, and also so that they feel comfortable and feel like they can trust me with things. And to be sensitive to where there are cultural differences. But if I had not had those experiences where there was friction in relationships with students, um, I don't think I would have known or been motivated the same way to learn those skills and grow in that way. So, um, any area where there's a deficit or where you're consistently making mistakes, I think there's some kind of professional development that can be done. And it doesn't have to be, the remedial whatever that everybody goes to immediately. Like working with a culture coach was fun. It wasn't just a slog that I was required to do. It was something that I volunteered for and something that was really worth my time. So, I think investing in yourself professionally after those mistakes in ways that help you compensate, and build up confidence in areas where you might be weak is also really important.
Some silent snaps. I'm gonna double down because I also just realized that I didn't answer your question after you had said you reiterated what the question was. Because I only said like what the first step is what I do. I guess the other part of it too is, and I'm gonna just echo what you said of a little bit, but even when there might not be something that's wrong directly of
Mhm.
what you did, there's still something to be learned from it if the
Sure.
situation didn't
Yeah.
end positively. Because, for example, I've had situations where I think I did my job exactly what I was supposed to do. And then I got feedback that felt like it wasn't really related. But even in that feedback, you can find something to improve
Right.
because even if you didn't do something wrong, something was interpreted wrong. If that's the case, then you
Mhm.
can change how you say things and you can change it in a way that is more constructive than destructive if that's how they
Yes.
felt.
Yeah.
Or if that's not what it was and there was other criteria or critique, then you need to kind of look at someone who has an outside perspective than just the two people butting heads. But yeah, no, I definitely agree that taking the time to just develop professionally, even when you may or may not have intended what you did or anything like that, is
Right.
extremely valuable. And it's a missed opportunity to just go out of that situation of this person's wrong. I move on.
Mhm. Right. Cool. Any other thoughts before we close out?
If you've made it this far and you haven't commented down below what I asked before, what are you doing? Make a YouTube account if you don't have one, which is just your Gmail at this point. What am
Hmm.
I? I've just aged myself. Remember when YouTube and Google were split? You might not, but I do. Comment down below and don't forget to subscribe and like and hit that notification bell for daily notifications.
Can you remind
Daily.
them what the thing they were supposed to comment was?
Well, the first thing I said two things. I don't remember the second thing. I think I said two things. The first thing was, how do you like the new setup? It was when I was standing in my chair.
That
Oh,
was
that's what you
true.
said.
The
Oh, you
second
couldn't
one
tell.
had to do with in the middle of the conversation, something about the definition of mistakes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Define
yeah.
Yeah.
mistake down below. We'll have a we will respond to every comment.
Will we?
Yeah.
We've responded to every comment so far,
Yeah, we've responded to every
That's
comment we've had so far.
every single one of them.
Yeah.
100% track record. Good
Yeah,
job,
we are
guys.
really good. We've never made a mistake on that front.
Nope.
Not so far.
Not so far.
All right. So, in summary, uh, mistakes happen. We learn, we grow, and yeah, we become better people and professionals because of our mistakes.
And we define them, they don't define us.
Yeah.
That was good.
Do 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 do.
Oh my
Come
gosh.
on, man. We got to separate ourselves from Pitbull.
I
No, I
don't know
have
if we
I'm,
can at this point.
all right. Make sure to tune in to our all of our other episodes. If you haven't watched all or listened to all of them prior, you should catch up. There's
Yeah, you
so much
should.
more that you could basically be you could feel like you're best friends with us by just listening.
You can.
So catch up with the lore, and we'll see you next time.